Welcome to another Sunday morning conversation, everybody. Today, my guests are John, Swati, and Randy. John is a TBI advocate out in Canada, and Swati and Randy are coworkers.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to see you.
Another day in the life, man. Another day in the life. I got to drive with the top down.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's always nice over there, right?
Nice and oppressively hot are two different things. Right now, it's pretty much oppressively hot.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
don't know
just
what the weather's like where you're at.
well, it's not Atlanta, but it's nice. It's top down weather for sure.
Okay,
Yeah. But we can enjoy it. Yeah, for sure.
great.
So this is so Eric. This is Swati Mehta. On my screen, she's the lower left, and we have Randy Upper as the other gentleman on our team. This is Eric
Well,
Esposito, who had reached out to me some time ago, and we had this conversation about So as you guys know, Randy and Swati, Eric had a TBI. He's from the U.S. of A. And we just got kind of talking over a phone call one time about the differences between the medical system really between Canada and US, and there's just so many different things that they don't have that we have, that it really just sparked a different conversation. And I shared with him that us three were working on a podcast, and so it just kind of like led from one thing to another. And I think Eric's just he's got a really nice following on social media. Of course, unfortunately, having a traumatic brain injury, he has changed his life trajectory from what he was doing, and he's really doing what he can to promote some awareness to folks. And we thought we could just collaborate. So here we are. I know we don't really have a script, Eric, but maybe you could walk us through what you're hoping for this, how long it's going to be. Will you ask each of us so that we know which one's going to answer, kind of thing? That would be great.
well, for the most part, I don't know what everybody actually does. I know a little bit about what you do, but then again, it's been a while since we talked, so I forgot a lot of what we said.
Okay, that's all right. Well,
uh, but with Swati and Randy, I don't actually know what their roles are in your whole food chain up there in Canada. So maybe they could just kind of elaborate on what they do.
for sure. Well, the floor is yours, guys. Swati and Randy, you guys can arm wrestle on who's going to go first.
You go, Swati.
Or not arm wrestle. Just be a gentleman.
I give in.
Just-
Just giving it away.
Yeah.
My name is Swati, and I'm a researcher at Lawson Health Research Institute, which is part of a hospital and a university. And my main research is looking at, mental health, coping, and managing chronic pain amongst those with disability, primarily neurological conditions. But I'm also a clinician, so I'm a registered psychotherapist. So I like to look at, how we can help improve people's adjustment process after they've had their injury and try to improve their activity engagement.
Okay. Now, Randy, what do you do in the food chain?
Well, Swati is my boss, and I work with the programs that she works with. So I I think my term is clinical research associate. So I am involved primarily in the studies that Swati is doing, the Internet Cognitive Behavioral Therapy program, where I'm the guide that helps guide people through the CBT program that we deliver online. We have delivered that to individuals with spinal cord injury, also people with mild traumatic brain injury, or now expanding and going to be delivering that program to individuals with stroke, and also to loved ones and caregivers. So that's probably I would say that's my main role within the team. And it's funny because when I say, Swati's my boss, it's funny because we all just work collaboratively on things. So it's such a great team to be a part of. And one of the other things that we are very heavily into right now too is the delivery of live physical activity programming. And my role in that is I instruct a seated boxercise program. And so those would be, I'd say, my main two roles. We've also done some other studies and other projects around there too, but that's mainly it. And my background is in social work. So I'm a social worker. I'm also registered with the College of Ontario Social Work, the Social Service Workers. So I'm also a registered therapist. And I've also, I think what I forget to mention is my educational background is a master's degree, and I most importantly have lived for the past 34 years thriving in life with a spinal cord injury. So I'm a T6 complete spinal cord injury as a result of a motorcycle accident.
Are you able to walk?
No, I'm
Okay.
completely paralyzed from my chest down.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, congratulations on still being here. Now, have you
Well,
ever felt like, so when you're a TBI survivor, there are phases where you really don't want to live. Did you ever have any
uh,
of those experiences?
oh yeah, oh yeah. Especially at the beginning, and in the beginning when you're so unaware of what the potential is, and all you can see is what you've lost, and there's no vision of what you can gain and how things can move forward. That was the darkest period in my life. And then of course life happens, right? And as life goes on, there are certain things that happen at certain moments, and where you're thinking, well, this is super difficult, and it's a matter of pushing yourself through. In terms of having those really dark sense of feeling of I don't want to be here, I haven't really had that since the earlier stages. To be quite honest, there have been very dark times, and I mean, that's not really true. I mean, there are times too when you think, is all of this kind of worth it and what have you, but and a lot of that has to do with, again, as life goes on. I've been married a few times, and so I've had relationships really kind of go to crap, and one of them was really related to the fact that the person couldn't handle the fact that their health problems and things ebb and flow when it comes to your health, and the things that I was, capable of contributing within the relationship, and then the amount of change that happens. So that was hard.
I have also dealt with I was in a relationship when I got hits, and she basically checked out and didn't want to help, and neglect, and all the bad stuff that comes with it, and it kind of left me feeling like I was on an island. I don't know about you, but I didn't really have any
Yeah.
local support. My family lives in Ohio. I live in Georgia, so there's
Okay.
nobody really close, and the only person I really had in my corner at the time was my mom. And honestly, I probably would have killed myself at one point if my mom hadn't been a nurse. And being a nurse, I knew that she understood and she could make the connections and at least feel empathy towards me, and that's the problem
Yeah.
with a brain injury is people can't make that connection. They see you're in a wheelchair, people can see, oh, something happened to that guy. They can make that connection where the brain injury is an invisible injury and they can't.
Right.
So you can really feel like you're on an island.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. And I know that I'm fortunate in the fact that I had a network of friends that when I was hurt, I went through a lot of stuff pre-injury. Like my life was really, I would not say in any respect rosy prior to being injured, and I got to a point where I thought, all of the shit that I dealt with when I was a kid really helped to build up my strength, and really helped me move forward after I had the spinal cord injury, and being able to work through that trauma. But one of the hugest things that I had in my corner were supports. And I had a great, tremendous group of friends from high school that were by my side all the time and still are to this day. And I really don't think I would have made it through like I did if it weren't for those supports. So I think you hit it right on the head, right? When you support, you've got to have that network. You've got to have those people that understand and that are in your corner. So
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I really have been. I don't say lucky, but fortunate.
Fortunate is a good word. Yeah, that's a very, lucky and fortunate, I would say, because, many people don't have those same opportunities that you do.
Right.
Now, John, how do you interact with these two?
So, well, I can share a little bit about how we met. in a short while, my interaction with the rehab team, which is what prompted us to have this further dialogue today, and me asking you if you'd be okay for us inviting Swati and Randy. So, as you don't have in the U.S., or perhaps at least where you're at in Atlanta, in Canada, where we're at in Ontario, what happens, unfortunately, someone gets into a car accident. Our insurance benefit system, so your auto insurance, if you meet certain criteria in which you're injured, what happens is you have an allotment of funds that you can get support, and that's where I come in. So I would have someone like Randy or Swati who could perhaps recommend services that we provide to a client. So Eric, if you had been in an accident here, depending on your insurance, you would have had someone like myself coming to see you once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week for a couple hours to kind of help you out with quite literally day-to-day things, really helping to reorient you back into as close to pre-accident as possible. So you might say, John, ever since my accident, I can't plan anything. I keep missing my appointments. I'm getting all these letters for my bills that need to be paid, and they're going to turn off my hydro. So I sort of act as a conduit with you to all the resources that you need to just make sure that your day-to-day is stable. And then once that is in place and you're like, okay, I'm feeling like I can sort of breathe now, things are in order, but John, I'm still having all these issues. And if you're having certain issues, someone like Randy, who's a social worker, would be able to work with you on that. My job is to report to other rehab professionals on the team on what kinds of things you're experiencing. And my role predominantly would be, I need to figure out, okay, so if Eric's talking about having all of these issues, it sounds like a social work thing. So I'd reach out to Randy and say, hey, Randy, Eric's experiencing A, B, and C. I'm going to connect you guys so you guys can start working on that. And then, of course, with Swati, what she does, someone like Swati would be overseeing the entire treatment of what's happening with you and would be able to recommend goals throughout. So as you, Eric, as someone like you begins to achieve certain goals, like if you didn't like to go grocery shopping because you really struggled with the noise and with your vision, with the lights, we would connect you with people to help get you, something like to clear out the noise, and perhaps some glasses to help out with the vision, and then maybe now you can go to the grocery store. So someone like Swati would be able to sort of help us navigate and really elevate those goals as you move along. In a nutshell, that's my role. I could probably speak a little bit longer, but I don't want to bore Randy and Swati, and I'm sure you're happy to have heard what I shared, but that's a general synopsis. But Swati spoke at a brain injury conference almost a year ago today. And I heard what she was speaking about. I was an attendee, and I thought, geez, what she's sharing is so impactful. And Swati being a doctor, understands, knows how to, decode, how to share, how to do all of these things with it. Except there's folks in the community who need things to be shared with them in a more lay form. So this is how and when we decided to start a podcast. It wasn't that easy. We went back and forth about ideas. So this podcast that I've mentioned a couple of times, everything you and Randy just talked about, we have episodes for each one of those podcasts. And it is just an information sharing platform so that folks in the past who have been in accidents, who struggle with all these kinds of things, if they're interested, can tune in. We're not doing it to monetize. We're not doing it to make money. We're doing it because people with disabilities are marginalized to begin with. And we just find that there aren't as many support systems as there could be. And we're trying to contribute to that. So that's how we all fit in together.
You didn't know there's supposed to be a brain injury conference down here in Atlanta this month. I don't know when it is, but one of the other neuroscientists I talked to long ago said there was one.
And is it something that you track and follow so that you could attend, or?
No, I had no idea. I just, while you were talking, I looked it up and it says it's Neurotrauma 2022. It's 26th to the 29th of this month.
Oh, okay. That's great. So it's it's a 3-day thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no hotel. Maybe I'll show up. I don't know. I'd have to see if I can get a grant from some brain injury foundation to go.
Yeah, well, so I mean, and to be quite honest, there's lots of so much of the stuff that we have discussed so far, Randy, Swati, and I. What we're trying to do is we're really trying to provide hope for people. We know that our podcast isn't going to cure people. We know, but we what we are hoping is that people will be like, "Wow, these guys just spoke about mental health. They really talked about mental health." Kind of like when you just asked Randy outright, you're like, "Hey, Randy, you ever thought of suicide or ending it all?" Or you like, those are conversations that we shouldn't be afraid of having, because a guy like Randy can give people hope and say, "Look, I've have lived experience for 35 years, but let me tell you what I've accomplished. Let me also share with you all my struggles," because there could be an 18-year-old who is going through what Randy is going through or what Randy went through. If that 18-year-old could listen to someone who's 35 years post, we win. So, and I think the conversation that I had with you was really more about, wow, this can be really wonderful for us to just kind of get together and talk. And I know you're trying to create some awareness and really learn more about what we have available to us in Canada versus what perhaps you guys might not have available where you're at.
We don't have anything like what you guys do to us for available to us. Nothing close. The Shepherd Center here in Atlanta was, I guess, they're pretty famous for brain injuries. They wouldn't even take me in because they thought, no, he's really not that bad, even though I really was that bad. Mild traumatic brain injury is kind of a relative term. There's can't really gauge what's mild about it.
Right. And when you so after your accident, Eric, did you have any support at all? And if so, from who? Like, how often would you see someone to help you navigate? Because obviously you couldn't work after, right?
Um, Here's the thing about that. Uh, I had no health insurance if I didn't work, so I had to go back to work. First, I returned to work 6 weeks after my accident, right? And my the neurologist at Kaiser told me, or the neuropsychologist at Kaiser told me, 3 to 6 months, you'll recover. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went back to work, and I knew I wasn't all right, but I had to work because I needed a paycheck. I didn't get short term disability from through the employer because of different situations. So I had to work because my employer paid me while I was gone, but I had to make that up into the because we needed to pay our bills.
Right.
But I wasn't able to. I went back to work 4 different times and got fired 4 different times.
And so within that, you don't have a system that allows for someone like you to perhaps seek a lawyer and say, hey, like I keep getting fired because I was in this accident. Do you guys not have that kind of where you would have someone advocating for you, or even someone at the hospital who you'd say, look, I've gone to work 4 times? Because here, and Swati and Randy, please correct me if I'm wrong. I know that in our hospital system, if Eric, you get into an accident and you go to the hospital, Parkwood, St. Joe's here, and you shared with one of your caseworkers, social worker, whomever, that yeah, you went back to work because you were told you were cleared to work and you got fired because you can't manage your work. Swati, Randy, here, we would have people at the hospital advocating for someone like Eric
Nothing.
and,
Nothing.
and reach out. And you didn't have that, Eric?
No, we don't got anything like that down here in Georgia. I don't know if we have anything like that in the U.S.
And Swati and Randy, when you guys are, and I mean, I don't know at what point there's a connect between what you guys do specifically at the hospital. Would you guys ever have a client engagement? Because I know a lot of your work, if not most, is research. But do you guys ever have client engagement in terms of where someone's post-accident and you have an interaction where you could then reach out to someone and say, hey, so and so, like Eric just got fired, but he is so compromised. Why is he even working? Would that be a part of one of your roles, Swati and Randy?
So I'll answer first and then I'll let Randy jump in. Um, Usually for research, we try to cater to everyone's needs. So when we're going through the process of delivering our program, if that's one of their goals, one of their needs, I do try to connect them to an in person caseworker here at St. Joe's. and then get them, connected to a lawyer or some kind of person that can advocate for them.
Okay.
So there has been maybe once that I've had to do that, but usually by the time they come to me, they're been living in the community for at least a year or two, so they've already had that service
Got it.
from a caseworker at the hospital. So it rarely happens, but we do have that opportunity to connect them if it is a more early on case.
Okay. And I figured that because I do know that we obviously work with doctors and of course social workers at the hospitals. So Eric, when someone gets into an accident and they make it to the hospital, there's immediately an entire medical team who, if they identified that in you, you would have advocates right away. The only reason I asked Swati and Randy is because I know they're more on the research side of things. So they're doing all kinds of research for the stakeholders and whatnot. But yeah, Eric, something like what happened to you wouldn't get to that place. If it did, it's not uncommon that people will try to go back to work and perhaps get fired or laid off or say, hey, like you can't, but you would have people in your corner saying, don't worry, Eric, we're going to contact them and try and, establish some ground rules for you so that you at least have support. So what did you do then, Eric? How did you pay your bills after, if I may?
Well, part of it was, I mean, obviously, because I got hit by a car, we sued them. So I got paid my bills, part of it with that. But other than that, I was using my savings, and part of my, my partner at the time was paying the other half. So
Okay.
that's what I had to do.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if what we have been talking about so far is the interview that you were looking for, or if there's like an official like start and end point for what you were looking for today.
No. Honestly, for being a TBI survivor, there are certain ways that I do things that normal people don't do. For me, it's kind of easier to go in without an agenda and kind of see where the evening takes us, where I
Sure.
kind of have like a couple of questions to ask, but more like I use follow-ups. It's not like I can remember a whole set list of questions, and I don't like to read from a set list. So I just kind of let it go where it goes.
That's quite all right. Yeah, no, I just want to, the reason I asked is I wanted to make sure that, hopefully today we're able to give you what you were looking for, because I know you're looking to share this with your network of people, and obviously we know that you have a certain amount of fuel in the tank and we don't want to waste it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't gonna do this forever, I was just kind of, well, first of all, my laptop is going to shit the bed at some point because it is like 4 years old, and all my design software is on there, and obviously I can't afford to buy a new one, and I can't. So you can't run DaVinci Resolve with an iPad. You have to have an actual Mac to run it with, and I don't know how to use a Mac, even though I can get one.
right, yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the keyboard just crapped out because it's a detachable keyboard on my Surface. And the screen has been popping off for like 6 months. It's like, well, I got to get all these interviews in so I can at least edit them and upload them, and then they can run on their own schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. Well, I mean, what is it? Is there anything that you want to know specifically from Swati or Randy or myself? Like you
Well,
said,
they're
yeah,
kind of a mystery guest. I didn't learn anything about them until today.
yeah, no, for sure.
I guess who funds your research? Who pays for all this?
So we have lots of different funders. We actually have a large of our fund. Most of our funding comes from an American organization called Craig Nielsen Foundation, which is a national foundation for people with spinal cord injury, that services either any research that happens in North America. And then we have smaller grants like the Ontario Neurotrauma Foundation that kind of funds a lot of our brain injury research and things like that. So a little bit more locally. And we have applied to other smaller, brain injury grants as well. But yeah, mostly Craig Nielsen Foundation is where we get our money. Um, when you do your podcast, I was wondering, do you get any funding from local organizations? It'd be interesting to know.
No, squadoosh. I just run mine, all on my own.
Wow.
I don't know if Swati has frozen on your end, Eric and Randy.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. We'll wait. She'll come back in shortly here.
Yeah, it's interesting too, you say, Eric, because one of the things that I'm doing outside of my role here with Swati's with our rehab team, is my wife and I have a website, and we are also looking at one of the big projects that we're doing right now is looking at sexual health assistance for people that require attendant care service. And so, and again, doing that just without it being monetized and trying to find funds and stuff for it. But yeah, we're fortunate in that we're just reaching out to individuals that we know for contribution to help pay, because we're affiliated with a local university as well, so we need funds to help pay for the students that are on co-ops and stuff that are helping with the project. And yeah, we're just sending out letters asking if people want to, contribute to it to pay for them to get that moving forward. And it's hard, man, trying to get people to ask towards something that you're doing. So I don't know if you're finding that same situation. It's hard to find the cash. It really is.
Well, I mean, I've got experiences. So I worked in a research lab in college, survey research lab, and I am used to having to ask people to do something for nothing in return,
All right.
So I'm actually pretty good at that, but for the most part, I just handle it on my own.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of worked its way out. But
Yeah.
if I were, the thing is, I'm kind of at my capacity to handle it on my own. Obviously, a brain injured person doesn't work at full capacity to begin with, but I'm kind of at the capacity to where this is as big as I can get and as much as I can put on my plate for one person, to where I would need help from somebody else, at least part time. But the problem is, I can't pay you, so
Yeah.
I can't grow any bigger. I can't do any more than I am. And I'm already overextended as it is.
You want somebody who has that same that kind of make it a labor of love. It's just something that they're passionate about and that they just want to go and contribute and see it get done.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I'm probably overextended as it is, and it's not sustainable, and I can feel that to where it's wearing me out.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could ever get the help from anybody, let alone to find someone who has like that spare time to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it takes, for sure. I mean, you're both dead on. I mean, Randy and Swati, you guys know full well, how much time and effort goes into like doing the podcast, right? There's lots of time and energy that goes into it, into just getting, on screen, and that's without actually going through the actual episodes. So, for sure, to find someone who's willing to do that to sort of help you out, Eric, that would be challenging.
Yeah, and I mean, even the fact of finding guests is, for the interview part. Like the video logs I do for my TBI stuff are actually easy. I do all that on my own. But the interviews is the hard part, because you spend so much time on social media just searching for someone who willing to do it, and then, like, first of all, they don't flake out on you. So you end up investing a lot of time. Like, I don't know how many DMs I've sent over the past 3 years. Probably 10,000. I know how many interviews I've managed to do, and it's about 100. So it's a lot of effort that goes into finding guests, and it's more than I'm willing to put in anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel you're getting to that point of burnout?
Yeah. Well, I felt like I've reached that point for a few times, and then I would just eat some edibles for like 3 weeks and just space out. Spend some time getting high, and then I just start again. But
Yeah.
like this is like the last time that I wanted to do it. And I feel like I've accomplished everything that I wanted to with it. You don't want to jump the shark, I don't know if you're familiar with that phrase.
Yeah, got it. So,
Well, I'm glad that you made the time for us. I'm glad you checked in and asked us, because I know Randy and Swati have a lot to share, as do I, and anything that we were able to answer for you, we're happy to, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was good. I mean, obviously we could sit here and probably do a 10-part series on the differences between the U.S. and Canadian health system for brain.
oh boy, yeah, absolutely.
But they don't show any love for us down here, so.
Yeah, we're very fortunate up here. We really are. And even like with Swati saying, with our research and the role that we play, because I know as the as the guide through, for example, the internet, the cognitive behavioral therapy stuff, there are people that slip through the cracks. So there are people that, we have these set programs and for people to go through but there are a lot of people, like you said, that their disability is not obvious, right? It's a brain injury, and a lot of times a lot of stuff doesn't surface until well down the road, and so people will get through the medical part of it, and a lot of what has been impacted by their brain injury hasn't come to the surface at that time. It surfaces later when they're already out in the community. So there are also then community type services that are available. Like, for example, if I'm doing the guide process and it turns up that someone's having a really hard time with a certain aspect of life that does not fall within the realm of what I do, it then becomes a point where you all contact Swati, and we'll find what resources are available in the community so that we can hook them up. And like you said about work, like there are, a different there's courses out there that people can take which help them, with work skills and that kind of stuff, and getting back to those types of things that are out in the community. So we are, although we complain about it not being enough, because there always could be more. Talking to you and hearing how much of the struggle it's been, it just reminds me of how really fortunate we are to have the services that we do.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even think of, sorry, Randy, I think I might have jumped in too soon.
No, it's all good.
I even think of, when we think of something, and it might have even been overlooked entirely, but here is how I look at it. I have asked Dr. Swati Mehta, I know she doesn't like to be referred as a doctor, but she is, and for purpose of illustration, sorry, Swati, but, I've asked Dr. Swati Mehta and Randy Upper, social worker. So these are two medical professionals in our community. After I sent them an email, neither one of them hesitated, Eric, at all. They quite literally said they'd be happy to share whatever they could. And that's not lost on me. I mean, these are two people who could be doing research right now. And I'm sure that they will just be working longer today because of, what they're doing here. And I just think we really are lucky. So Randy, to add more to what you're saying, you're right. I mean, of course we always want more, but we are lucky here in Canada. It's really quite amazing, like what we do have. So yeah, I mean, that's not lost on me. And I don't know how easy it would be, stateside, to have that. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be a social worker and a doc that would be happy to give their time. I'm sure there are. I just don't know, in your experience, if that is something that would be easily doable or not.
Mm-hmm.
My experience or theirs?
Well, I mean, I know that you can't be the person, you can't be the spokesperson for all of those people, but I'm just wondering, in your experience thus far, would that be something that you could easily accommodate on your end with all the people that you know and that you've come across?
I don't think it's something that could really happen in the States without kind of a major healthcare reform.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. That's too bad, because I'm sure that there's lots of people that are there who would be willing to give their time. It's just how do you find those people, right?
Yeah, most support groups are always run by not survivors but caregivers, so it's always everything's unpaid,
Yeah.
There's a lot of that here as well. Like, there's a lot of people. I mean, I guess that's good because you know what, Eric, that means that there's people who are giving their time, right? Like, that's really important. We all need to do that. And I do think that if you're sharing that, that's a positive thing. So there's obviously people who do that.
Are there?
Yeah, it is positive, but I mean, with everything's out of pocket and it's really hard to get funds for anything, so not a lot of things get done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think I find that here as well, especially with brain injury. And I know Randy has had that experience when we're running a lot of brain injury programs. Kind of like you mentioned before, I think there's a lot of stigma because it is, not a physical disability everyone can see. We do find brain injury people fall through the cracks a lot easier. than people that have the physical disability. And so, when we were running the program, and Randy could probably back me up and give me some more information, there was a couple people that were in the community that, fell through the cracks, and we had to kind of work with their caseworkers to get them support. And so even though we do have those, support systems, we are lacking in a lot of ways as well. And I apologize if you guys talked about this, but I'm on the hospital network and I keep losing my connection. So I'm just calling from my phone at this point, and hopefully it'll stay.
Yeah, no, it is a point worth making sure that we hit it home, that, yes, there are gaps, and yes, there are things that we could do more of and do better. I think one thing that seems to have a lot of kind of steam in its engine right now are peer support programs and things like that. That those have, I mean, they've been around for years and been around since I've been, in a chair, using a chair, but it seems like they've really have some momentum behind them right now. And those are great. So I'm not sure if you have those things around, Eric, if that's something that is popular, or is peer support type programs, whether it be group or individual.
I mean, there are. It's through. I mean, they're not free, right? I can tell you that. They're through different, therapist office and stuff. But there are far more resources for people like you than there are for me in the United States.
Oh, sure. I've seen that, and that's sad. It really is. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think in the US, there's also the spinal cord injury model systems, but I don't know if there's a brain injury model systems. And I think Shepherd Center is part of that. And I don't know if, Eric, you know more about that.
I don't know, but I know the Shepherd Center wouldn't take me, so it is what it is.
Right.
And have you reintroduced your case to them by saying, look, there was a time that you guys shared, I was not a candidate to receive treatment here, and I'm really struggling, no?
No, and I wouldn't say I'm really struggling. I've adapted to my life to what it is now. It took a long time to get there, but obviously it probably would have happened sooner if they would have taken me.
Yeah. Do you mind if we ask, so you haven't returned back to work? Like I'm
on permanent disability now, but I tried, over the first 2 years, I tried 4 times.
Yeah, and then that was it. Like you were not able to stay employed. You haven't tried to, do some retraining or anything like that. So you just do whatever you're able to do on your own, and if you can make some money, you do, and if not, you rely on the income disability.
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at the time up here. There's about 2.5 minutes left of recording time, Eric. So I'll leave it with you to wrap up however you choose.
Oh no, that's great. I mean, that's fine, but no, I mean, you got to remember, I also was in a lawsuit, so I do have that money too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
It was a sizable amount when I got it. Now it's not.
Yeah.
Funny how that happened.
Unfortunately, it never is. It always looks bigger than what it needs to be because the person who's getting it is injured and needs it. And as you know, you have a long life ahead of you where you still require all kinds of resources, and hopefully that money lasts for you. That's always
that's why I give plasma and stuff too, because I mean, I don't know how that works in Canada, but it's, tax-free money here that it's easy to get.
Oh,
what was that? Sorry, Eric.
What?
You give what?
Plasma.
What's that about?
They have all these different centers throughout the United States, so where you show up, you're not giving blood, they're taking the water out of your blood.
Okay.
Giving your blood back, and then they hand you like $50-$60 on a card.
Oh, wow.
That's great. Now, how often can you do that?
Twice a week.
Oh, wow. So are those places must be busy? You're saying they're all over the U.S.
Yeah, they're fairly busy. The process takes like an hour, so I'm gone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on the day.
Yeah. Wow. That's not too bad at all.
It's like $500 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not enough to live on, but it's a nice stipend for groceries. And
especially when you say it's tax-free, I mean, that's a bonus too, right? So you're not giving half of it to the government.
Yep. Yeah. So.
Well, hey guys. So you are involved. One thing I want to ask you that I'm very interested in, I know there's only 1 minute left, but you do triathlons. Is that what I
do.
Okay. And is that something you're still actively involved in?
I am. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll
Oh,
be going to Germany for a race next year.
oh,
Oh,
beautiful. Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
raced in Germany back in the hand cycling days. Have you ever been?
No, I have not.
Oh man, enjoy. See if you can tag on a few extra days to go to some of the beer houses and
I'm
check
actually
out some of
sober
the.
now, so I don't know. I don't know.